The concept of artificial consciousness, or machine consciousness, is an area of study within artificial intelligence and cognitive robotics. Its goal is to determine what mechanisms would need to be synthesized to create consciousness in a man-made object. While neuroscience suggests that consciousness is created from the functioning of various parts of the brain, proponents of artificial consciousness believe that it's possible to replicate this interoperation through computer systems. Philosophers also explore the idea of artificial consciousness, delving into questions about consciousness and mental states. One of the main debates is whether consciousness can exist in systems that are entirely automated, leading to questions about creativity, emotions, and free will. However, for some functional theorists, consciousness can be instantiated in any system that can perform the same pattern of causal roles, independent of their physical constitution. David Chalmers proposes that the right kinds of computations are sufficient for consciousness, defending his argument that mental properties are organizationally invariant. Overall, the theme of the article centers around the possibilities and challenges of creating artificial consciousness through technology. Critics of AC claim that Chalmers' assumption that abstract causal organization captures all mental properties and external connections is flawed. The ethical issue of the rights of a conscious machine must be considered if a specific machine were suspected of possessing consciousness, particularly in the case of a conscious computer being used as a tool or central computer. However, as artificial consciousness is still largely theoretical, the extent of ethical discussions regarding the subject has been limited. Despite being a prevalent theme in works of fiction, German philosopher Thomas Metzinger asserted the need for a global moratorium on synthetic phenomenology until 2050, citing the potential for creating an explosion of artificial suffering. The Loebner Prize competitions rules also address the question of robot rights. AC requires various functions of consciousness, with Bernard Bars and Igor Alexander offering potential criteria for defining artificial consciousness. The aim of AC is to explore whether and how these and other aspects of consciousness can be synthesized in an engineered artifact such as a digital computer. The story revolves around the concept of awareness, which can be of three types: agency, goal, and sensoromotor. However, the distinction between awareness and consciousness is often blurred, and they are sometimes used interchangeably. Conscious events also interact with memory systems, and learning is critical to adapt to novel situations. Prediction is another vital aspect of awareness, allowing organisms to anticipate and respond to events. To demonstrate artificial consciousness, a machine must possess real-time components that can build models of the real and predicted worlds and make coherent predictions for novel environments. The concept of subjective experiences, or qualia, remains a challenge to physicalism and computationalism, but it is not an impossible task, as exemplified by problems in other fields of science that limit our ability to observe. The story revolves around the development of an autonomous agent called IDA, created by Stan Franklin in collaboration with the U.S. Navy. IDA is functionally conscious and is tasked with matching sailors' skills and preferences with the Navy's needs. The software is an implementation of Global Workspace Theory and heavily relies on codelets. Although its architecture models high-level cognitive functions, Franklin does not attribute phenomenal consciousness to IDA. However, the software has demonstrated human-like behaviors, leaving Navy detailers impressed. The Clarion cognitive architecture, which posits a two-level representation of conscious and unconscious mental processes, has been successful in simulating skill learning tasks. Ben Goertzel is pursuing embodied AGI through the OpenCog project by creating virtual pets capable of learning simple English language commands and integrating it with real-world robotics. The theme of this passage is the exploration of artificial consciousness. Hakkönen's belief in a neural-inspired architecture of complexity that can develop consciousness is shared by other researchers like Freeman and Cotterill. However, a low-complexity implementation of Hakkönen's architecture was not capable of achieving consciousness. Murray Shanahan has proposed a cognitive architecture that combines global workspace with internal simulation. Self-awareness is being investigated by Junichi Takino, who claims to have developed a robot capable of discriminating between self-image and identical images. Takino's work proposes the self-body theory and focuses on developing self-awareness as the most crucial aspect of artificial consciousness. Igor Alexander has extensively researched artificial neural networks and suggests that the principles for creating a conscious machine already exist. However, there are doubts about the basic principle that the brain is a neural state machine. The attention schema theory of consciousness, proposed by Michael Graziano and Sabine Kastler in 2011, suggests that the brain tracks attention to sensory inputs through an attention schema, similar to the way the body schema tracks spatial positioning. Graziano discusses this theory in his book Consciousness and the Social Brain, highlighting how the brain computes awareness by modeling states in which a person applies attention enhancements to various stimuli. This has implications for artificial consciousness, as it proposes a specific mechanism for creating consciousness that machines could replicate. However, traditional tests like the Turing test have limitations in confirming consciousness in machines, and Viktor Argonov introduced a non-Turing test based on the ability of machines to produce spontaneous philosophical judgments. While this test can detect consciousness, it cannot refute its absence. Ultimately, the existence of qualia, or first-person experience, makes it difficult to empirically define and test for consciousness in machines. Works of fiction feature various characters with artificial consciousness, or at least personalities implying consciousness. Among these are AC from William Gibson's Sprawl trilogy, agents from the Matrix franchise, and Agent Smith, who grew into a renegade program of overgrowing power that could self-replicate like a computer virus. The theme of sentient AI turning malicious is evident in the characters of ALD.E. From the 100 in the omnipotent AM from Harlan Ellison's I Have No Mouth, and I Must Scream, shown as an antagonist driven by hatred for humanity to cause mass genocide, sparing only a few humans to play sadistic games with for eternity. Other examples of AI characters include amusement park robots that went homicidal in Westworld and Futureworld, Bishop from the movie Aliens, and android crew member Ash from Alien. Bender from Futurama, GLaDOS from Portal, and HAL 9000 from 2001, A Space Odyssey create characters of sapient AI with their own emotions and personalities, while Marvin the paranoid android from The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy adds a tone of perpetual depression to the mix. The theme of the following works of literature and media revolves around artificially conscious beings and their implications on identity, trust, and life value. In Star Trek: The Next Generation, the character Professor James Moriarty is a sentient holodeck character, while R2-D2 is an excitable astromech droid featured in Star Wars. In Greg Egan's novel Permutation City, the protagonist creates digital copies of himself to explore the concept of artificial consciousness. The Destiny video game depicts Rasputin, an AI that becomes self-aware and learns trust and the value of life by sacrificing itself to save humanity. The novel Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? In the film Blade Runner introduce replicants, biorobotic androids that portray the consequences of creating artificially conscious robots in the image of humans. The New Gen comic book series features Roboduck, a combat robot superhero. Frank Herbert's Destination, Void and sequels depict the ship, a result of a large-scale AC experiment that defies past warnings of making a machine in the image of a man's mind. In the video game Fallout 4, synths are a type of android that raise the question of their rights and consciousness. Doctor Who's TARDIS, the time machine in spacecraft, is sometimes portrayed with a mind of its own. The Terminator franchise features cyborgs with visual consciousness depicted via a first-person perspective, while the Doctor from Star Trek, Voyager is a sentient computer program designed as a doctor. Transformers are sentient robots depicted in a superhero franchise, and Arthur C. Clarke's The City in the Stars introduces Vanamond, an immensely powerful artificial being with a childlike personality. Lastly, Annapurna Interactive's game Stray features robots and a drone companion named B12.